Talk Radio presents The Inheritors. A story of family wealth, power, and intrigue.
Come in. Frank.
I got back here as fast as I could.
I saw Doug Fisher right after you left, so I'm clear now. Have you got that report from Simpson?
Yeah.
Have you read it?
I looked through it in the car. Here you are.
Thanks. Well, what's the gist of it?
Simpson has managed to dig up a few rather startling facts about Felicity Ferrier.
Such as?
Her mother was a Mrs. Grace Ferrier.
Mm-hmm.
She was married to a Frenchman. Felicity was 9 years old when her mother was killed in a car accident in 1963. Her father died some years previously.
I know all that, more or less. After the accident, Felicity went to live in England with a relative at Leatherhead and Surrey. After school, Felicity worked for a while at British Rail as a clerk, and then recently as a hairdresser in London. What's the meat of it?
Felicity's mother's maiden name was Shaw.
So what? Is it supposed to ring bells? I don't recall the name.
Simpson had a check on the name through our central computer, specifically the personnel records.
And what did the computer have to say?
Felicity's mother, Grace Ferrier, the former Miss Grace Shaw, was a member of your uncle's head office staff in London between 1943 and 1956.
I see.
Shaw Ferrier was eventually in charge of a department involved in export and import. About 6 months after she took control of the Paris bureau, she married Pierre Ferrier. He was a wealthy industrialist with no connections to your uncle's business, at least not as far as the computer records reveal.
Were there any debit marks against Shaw Ferrier?
On the contrary, your uncle himself engineered her various promotions. She had the highest security clearance to deal with sensitive business matters.
Mm-hmm.
The woman was a first-class top executive.
You say Shaw Ferrier was cleared to deal with sensitive business matters?
That's right. And some of your uncle's post-war dealings in Europe were not always strictly legal. Felicity's mother was involved in some of that.
Why hasn't Simpson given us a full resume of Felicity's mother's history with the company? This report of his is extremely sketchy in that respect.
Simpson's a very meticulous man. The information he's left out simply isn't available.
It must be. We have everything on computer. All right, the sensitive data is programmed in special codes, but you could have authorized Shaw Ferrier information to be decoded.
The first thing I did when I saw Simpson's report was to phone head office security from my car. I asked for the additional information which was missing.
No, sir?
They phoned me back just as I arrived here. Simpson had already placed a request for the Shaw Ferrier file to be decoded, but the information is not on the computer.
What?
All records of her activity between 1945 and the time of her death in 1963 had been edited out.
Oh, this is ridiculous. Who the blazes authorized editing the records in the first place?
According to the security log on the computer, your late uncle himself tampered with the Shaw Ferrier's file. The information about her was not only in code, it was classified as one of the corporation's industrial secrets.
The information about the woman must have been relocated somewhere, if it was that important.
Our main computer for confidential information was programmed in 1971. Prior to that, all sensitive records were stored in what we call the Red File System, the RFS.
Yes, I know that.
During the coding and transfer of sensitive data from the RFS, your uncle doctored Shaw Ferrier's file and gave no indication to the computer regarding the place where the edited material about the woman was relocated. In fact, the edited information may have been destroyed.
My uncle was fanatical about keeping records. I can't imagine him destroying the data. He must have relocated it somewhere.
In that case, he's taken the secret with him to the grave.
You've been with the companies for about 30 years. You were close to my uncle during the past 20. You must have some idea what sensitive operation Shaw Ferrier handled on my uncle's behalf.
Well, the woman's ordinary activities are on file and can be easily checked. But regarding sensitive material, I haven't a clue. I tried to put together a picture by inquiries among people who worked with her.
Well, who was head of the security department in the corporation during her service?
Guy Wallace, but he's been dead 10 years. When I joined the corporation in 1949, I was in a relatively junior position. The precise details of Shaw Ferrier's activities were outside my area. We're talking about events that took place over 30 years ago.
Didn't Guy Wallace brief you later?
Not about Shaw Ferrier.
All right, what do you know about the company's sensitive operations in post-war Europe?
Well, your uncle was cashing in on the post-war boom. In those days, as American and British investments were expanding rapidly, and he seized on a variety of diverse opportunities. It took me a while to try and find out exactly how Felicity's mother fitted into any sensitive matters.
She was in the import-export department in Britain and later in France. What sort of tricky deals could she have had a hand in?
Currency rackets, surplus arms deals, black market commercial supplies, any of a dozen fiddles. Later, when things got more settled, there were various sophisticated transactions between banks, industries, and so on.
No. Felicity wasn't even born in those days. If she's up to do blackmail on us, as you suspect, then somewhere, sometime between 45 and 63, her mother got mixed up in something so explosive it's still dangerous today.
Yes, your uncle carefully edited the secret records of Shaw Ferrier, but possibly the woman kept some sort of records of her own, and they may be in her daughter's hands now.
Well, Felicity came out here to our regional head office and contacted my uncle about it.
But he died before the negotiations could proceed.
Yes. It seems likely Felicity's appearance was so traumatic for the old man it caused him to have that heart attack.
I reckon Felicity will contact you before long and take up where she left off when the old man died.
I still think we should consider having the woman taken somewhere secluded and wring whatever it is out of her.
No, we're doing the right thing by just keeping her under surveillance for the time being.
Better be right. Oh, by the way, I told you I've just been having a few words with Douglas Fisher.
Yes?
As you know, he's head of DF Chemicals in the States.
Yes, I know.
He and my uncle were close friends. They had been for 40 years or more. Very close friends. I wondered if my uncle had said anything to Fisher.
Did you ask him?
No. Well, not directly. I just said I'd noticed the old man seemed a bit worried about something recently.
And what did Fisher say?
Nothing much. He asked me if my uncle had told me what could have been worrying him. And I said no. How closely connected to our companies was DF Chemicals in the old days?
Our Denbrook Pharmaceuticals plant in Britain had some close cooperative dealings with Fisher's group after the war. Then Fisher branched out mainly into chemicals used by industry. His group specializes in certain poisons, such as insecticides.
Well, seeing that Doug Fisher and my uncle were such close friends, it may not be a bad idea to check on all the contacts DF Chemicals have had with us, particularly between 45 and 63.
All right.
I can't help feeling Fisher knows something. I haven't got a grain of evidence to support it. As I say, it's just a feeling. But perhaps it was the way he was looking at me, as though he wanted to convince himself that I didn't know something. Something which could explain how my uncle could be so upset he had a heart attack.
And when is Fisher returning to the States?
He told me he'll be on a flight back tomorrow night.
I see. Well, I'll check out DF Chemicals' record and see what turns up.
There's another thing I'd like you to check out.
Hmm?
Have somebody take a close look at the circumstances of that car crash which killed Felicity's mother. It could be Felicity has found something or other she thinks is good for blackmailing us. But possibly there's more to all this than either she or us realize at this stage.
All right, I'll get things moving.
Let's get back to my office in the city. Among other things, I want to get on the phone to Simpson in London.
Oh, there you are, dear. I was wondering what had happened to you.
I'm going back to the office with Frank.
Is something wrong?
No, nothing's wrong. I've just got important work to take care of. You look after the guests who come back here after the funeral.
Excuse me a moment. I'll go and fetch the car around to the front.
Thanks,
Oh.
Frank.
I nearly forgot. There was a phone call for you, a young man.
What young man? What did he want?
He didn't say.
What did you give his name?
Paul Post. He said his name was Paul Post.
What?
Will you look annoyed? Who is he?
You're sure he said his name was Paul Post?
Of course I'm sure. Who is he?
He's a nobody. And I intend to make that perfectly clear to him if he should phone again. My wife told me there was a phone call while we were talking in my study.
A phone call?
Yes, I'd given instructions that I didn't want to be disturbed, so Prudence answered it.
Who called?
Paul Post.
Sally Post's brother.
Are there any other Paul Post who'd have phoned me?
Quiet. I warned you that young man could turn out to be a nuisance. What did you want?
He didn't leave a message, except to say he'd phone me at the office sometime.
It could be he's found out about his sister's predicament.
Will you see to it that he doesn't interfere?
Of course.
I offered Sally $5,000 to go through with the treatment. Perhaps Brother Paul doesn't think it's enough.
I'll take care of him if he surfaces again.
Good. We've got enough trouble right now. If he's persistent, he'll discover he's a tadpole swimming in a tank full of piranhas.
Prudence, are you in here? Oh, it's you, Candace. You startled me when you switched on the light.
I heard John and Frank's car leaving. And then when I was walking down the corridor, I thought I heard a noise in here.
Yes. Well, it's only me.
So what are you doing in John's study with a torch? Why didn't you have the ordinary lights on?
Well, nothing.
Look, I don't mean to pry. After all, it's your house. You can do what you like.
But you can't help wondering what I'm doing in John's study when he's gone out. And why I'm looking around in here with a torch instead of putting on the proper light.
You don't have to explain yourself to me. It's your house.
All right. I didn't have the light on because I didn't want anyone to see it and come here, thinking John had forgotten to switch off.
Were you looking for something?
Yes.
Whatever it was, did you find it?
No.
I'm sorry I intruded. I'll go now.
No, wait, please. Don't go.
This is turning out to be just as embarrassing for me as it is to you. Shall we just forget it?
Maybe I should talk to someone.
You're not obliged to explain to me what you do in your own house.
Stop saying that. I need someone to talk to.
Keep your voice down. You'll have your mother along in a minute to find out what's going on.
Let's go through to the small lounge. We can be private there.
All right, if that's what you want. What were you looking for in John's study?
Evidence.
Evidence? What evidence?
I'm not sure, but something is going on. In case you hadn't noticed, I just live here, exist, if you like, in this enormous palatial home. Do you know what your brother's really like, Candace? Would you like to know?
What is it you want to talk about? What did you mean when you asked if I know what John's really like?
How well do you think you know him?
Well, I've been away in the United States for some time, as you know, but of course John and I have kept in touch by telephone. Well, he came to see me a couple of times when he was in the States on business. My opinion of John is that he's an energetic, ambitious, and aggressive businessman. He's not a fool.
I mean, what's he like as a person, as a human being? As my husband.
As far as your marriage is concerned, you're a better judge of that than I am.
He treats me like part of the furniture. It's as though I was a bought and paid for possession.
Oh, you're exaggerating, surely. You aren't bought and paid for. You're an individual human being. And the facilities exist for you to do very much as you please.
Is that what you think?
You're well educated. You have wealth. You're healthy and attractive looking.
Which means I should be existing in a constant state of euphoria.
No, I don't mean that. But your circumstances don't strike me as being particularly depressing.
John is a past master of psychological warfare, if I may use that expression. We've been married for several years, and in that time he has reduced me to the level of a vegetable.
What?
Oh, he doesn't beat me or anything so crude. He uses psychology. I didn't notice it at first, but suddenly I realized I'm a nothing. I'm a trained hostess and well-behaved, nodding companion. Being John Drew's wife is the sum total of my achievements.
I see.
Apart from social meanderings with him, I may as well be one of a harem.
You can remedy that by exerting yourself.
Can I? You know, it's not so easy.
Yes, but I'm
trapped. I'm like a medieval princess confined to the castle while the knight goes off to the wars. Believe me, I'm not exaggerating. I've got instructions not to set foot out of the house without taking one of Frank Goodley's security officers with me.
You're the wife of a very rich man. The security is for your own protection.
There's more to it than that. It's all part of the web. Everything around John has a place, a function. And it's all watched over by Frank Goodley. It's diabolical.
Have you discussed with John how you feel? How you'd like more opportunity to express yourself?
No, I've given up. He isn't interested in what I think. I want to develop as a person, but he can't understand that. He is the original male chauvinist pig.
Perhaps you're just badly depressed at present.
John never discusses anything with me. It's as though he thinks I haven't the intelligence to grasp more than the next hairdresser's appointment or what to wear to the next social event.
Listen to me for a moment. If you want to develop as a person, then you've got
I want to start an interior decorating business. Interior decorating is something I seem to have a natural flair for. Good colour sense, knowledge of styles and furnishing, balance, perspective, and so on.
Well, then why not do it?
So John won't have his wife working. The wife's place is in the home.
If you had children, it would be different, but under the circumstances...
Children? The specialist said it's physically possible for us to have children, but for some unknown reason, it hasn't happened. One of the doctors said it could be because I'm mostly in a rather highly nervous state. It's hard to get creatures in a zoo to breed, and I'm like a creature that's been caged.
The doctor said that?
Oh, no, it's what I say. And in the meantime, I'm vegetating. Sometimes I think there's more intellectual activity going on inside a radish.
And what about your expedition into John's study earlier this evening? What were you up to?
Oh, I'm not sure. I was just looking.
You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to.
Let's put it this way. I've always been very faithful to John, to our marriage. Unfortunately, I doubt if his attitude has been the same. Actually, I know it hasn't.
Oh?
He's had affairs. Oh, I may not be top of the brains trust around here, but I'm not stupid. Well, his latest adventure involved a girl called Sally Post.
And did you hope to find some evidence of it in John's study?
Yes. Earlier this evening, a man phoned asking for John. His name was Paul Post.
I see.
This is the first time anyone involved in John's escapades has actually approached the house.
And is Paul Post the aggrieved husband of Sally?
No. He's her brother.
Oh, you seem remarkably well informed.
I wouldn't say that, but I know a few things.
Did you hire detectives to snoop on John?
No. If I did that, it's possible Frank Goodley would find out. People are frightened of Frank. I don't have to tell you that Frank has a lot of power. He operates a proper little Gestapo inside the corporation. Or perhaps I should call it a mafia.
Are you suggesting he misuses his power?
Perhaps I shouldn't be talking to you like this, but after all, now that your uncle's dead, you and Frank are the royal family.
Whatever failings Frank has, he's a top-class company man.
Oh, sure, he's a faithful general, which is all well and good unless you're one of his targets. I didn't hire detectives to snoop on John because I don't want Frank turning any bright lights on me.
So how did you find out about Sally Post?
I did my own detective work.
Why don't you confront John directly with your accusations?
It's not just Sally I've uncovered. Tonight, Frank and John were talking about a woman called Felicity Ferrier. I overheard them.
Miss Ferrier isn't one of John's paramours.
Oh. Then you know something about her.
Yes.
Who is she?
She's a business matter. John isn't involved with her romantically in any way.
A business matter? Well, what do you mean?
Felicity Ferrier had some sort of connection to John and his late uncle.
What connection?
Oh, it's something to do with business. If you're curious, I think you should rather ask John about
Oh,
it.
you're as bad as he is. Nobody wants to tell me anything.
All I'm saying
You
is
two
that
are all the same. You stick together. Anybody else is just part of the furniture.
Prudence, please.
I've been shut in a glass bubble. Everything's going on around me, and I have to be the bubble. Peering through the glass, just getting glimpses of
Please,
things.
Prudence, try to calm down.
I'm tired of being calm. Good old Prudence, the sleeping beauty. Trot her out at suitable functions. Wind her up, and she smiles, nods, and minds her own business. Or at least she would if she had any business to mind.
I'm sorry, I had no idea what you were going through.
Nobody has any idea what I go through in my glass bubble. What's worse, nobody cares. It's assumed that because I'm rich, healthy, and good-looking, I must be happy. Huh. I've met cripples who are happier than I am. Happy because they've managed to develop their characters, find a meaningful place.
I want to help you if I can. But at the moment, you're obviously on the brink of a nervous collapse.
Of course I'm on the brink. Tell me what he's done about Sally Post.
No idea. I've never heard of her until you mentioned her name.
She used to work for a department store in Durban in the accounts section. I don't know what she did to annoy John, but she suddenly disappeared.
Disappeared?
And she doesn't work at the store anymore. All her stuff has been moved out of the flat where she was living. I found out that a car collected her from the flat one afternoon and took her away. A van came and removed all her stuff from the flat. Her boss at the department store said she's just phoned and told him she wasn't coming back.
Oh, I'm sure there's a perfectly ordinary explanation for it all.
Oh, good grief. Obviously something fish took place. Now I suppose her poor brother's wondering what's happened to her.
You're only guessing.
I think that Sally did something to rock John's boat. And when someone rocks the boat, Frank Goodley appears on the scene. He can fix anything. I once heard him and your late uncle talking about burying a problem caused by someone in South America.
So what?
When Frank buries something, a problem or a person, the phrase can be taken literally. Oh, yes. You can stare at me with wide eyes. You don't know what that brother of yours is like as well as I do.
Hello? Is that Dr. Wilson's residence? Oh, good evening, Doctor. This is Candy Strew speaking. I'm John Drew's sister. I believe you're my brother's family doctor. Yes, well, I'd be grateful if you could come across to the Rose Hills house as soon as possible. My sister-in-law isn't well. I think she's in the process of having a nervous breakdown. Please hurry.
I saw Dr. Wilson's car turning out of the drive as I arrived. What was he doing here? Who's ill?
He came to see Prudence.
To see Prudence? She was all right when I left here a few hours ago. What happened?
She was in a very excited frame of mind. Dr. Wilson gave her a sedative. He asked that she be left to sleep undisturbed. He'll be round to see her tomorrow afternoon.
I see.
I think you and I should have a serious little talk, brother dear.
Well, what upset her this time? Was it reaction after our uncle's funeral this afternoon?
No, that's not what's behind it.
Well, then, what was the cause?
Let's go through to the lounge and talk.
Yes, all right. I could do with a drink.
I notice you frequently seem to need a drink.
Oh, don't worry. I'm not becoming an alcoholic.
Well, get yourself a drink and then let's discuss a few things.
So, what traumatic event occurred here after I'd left? Everything seemed morbidly quiet at the time.
When did you last sit and have a proper husband and wife conversation with Prudence?
Eh?
I said, when did you last...
first time. What sort of question is that supposed to be anyway?
If Prudence isn't good enough for you, why don't you just tell her to get a divorce?
Divorce Prudence? What are you rambling on about?
She feels that she just exists in this house. She isn't treated like a thinking person. Is that true?
Now I get it. You and Prudence have been having a little hen party. She's been playing the role of the wronged princess and driven herself hysterical again.
Again?
Yes.
You mean she's been wound up like a cuckoo clock before?
Every so often Prudence blows her cool, yes.
But why?
Well, how should I know? She's just highly strung, I suppose.
Does that remark mean that you've never bothered to find out why
don't
she
you
gets
come
wound up?
directly to the point, Candice? I'm not in the mood for talking in circles.
All right, John. I'll come directly to the point. And you'd better sit down because I'm going to rattle you.
Very well. I'm sitting down. I'm composed. Let's hear what you've got to say.
Prudence knows about Sally Post.
I see. And, what exactly does she know?
That you've been having an affair.
Well, it's all over now. The curtain's dropped as far as that little relationship with Sally is concerned. Tell me, how did Prudence find out?
She knows. That's all I'm saying. And secondly, she knows that this Sally Post of yours has vanished from her job, from the flat where she was living, and presumably from the city.
That's right. That's what's happened.
Where's Sally disappeared to?
Does it matter?
It does to Prudence.
Huh? Why?
She thinks that Sally must have presented you with a serious problem. And as a result, Frank Goodley has had her disposed of. Permanently.
Are you saying Prudence thinks I asked Frank to have Sally murdered?
Prudence thinks Frank is capable of having something like that done. She says he's like the mafia. Well, I suppose it's nice to know that someone thinks all this is funny.
Oh, I can't help laughing. What's the matter with that wife of mine? Has she finally gone completely simple?
It could be that she's just the victim of mental stress.
Frank doesn't go about murdering people. We aren't living in the Wild West. Well, don't tell me you think I order gunmen to go around bumping off anyone who gives me a bit of uphill.
I don't think you asked Frank to kill Sally. Or rather, for Frank to arrange for her to be killed. I can't imagine the circumstances of her position warranting it, but you and Uncle Peter were close. You tried to emulate him. And now that he's dead, you may even try to be him.
Meaning?
Our late uncle was not only a rich, powerful tycoon, he was also brutal. The real power of corporations the size of the one you and I now control are not to be underestimated. We both know what I mean.
I don't care for the direction this conversation's taking.
Neither do I, but probably for different reasons to yours. Now, let's get back to Sally Post.
Uh-huh.
Just what has happened to her?
It's none of your business.
Well, I'm making it my business. Your wife's at the end of her rope. Her nerves, for want of a better word, are shot to pieces. Now tell me what's happened to Sally Post.
All right. We'll trade information. I'll tell you what's happened to Sally, and you tell me how Prudence found out about her in the first place.
Very well. You first.
Sally's expecting a baby. I've sent her away to have the problem taken care of. As I'm sure you can understand, I can't allow myself to be nailed with an illegitimate child.
What you've arranged for Sally is illegal in this country.
I'm aware of that. But she's been admitted to a private clinic in another town where she'll be processed as a psychiatrically disturbed patient who cannot go through with a pregnancy. At least that's how it'll be recorded.
You've just admitted involvement in criminal fraud, not to mention procuring.
When Sally comes out of the clinic, she'll be paid $5,000 and established in another town where she can begin a new life. Now, tell me how Prudence found out about Sally.
For a start, Prudence knows nothing about the baby Sally's expecting, thank heavens. She discovered your relationship with Sally through the simple procedure of following you. Seems she's been going out on her own without taking along the bodyguards you insist on.
Sir, Prudence did her own spying. I didn't think she had it in her.
There seems to be a great many things about Prudence that you don't appreciate.
Such as?
She doesn't enjoy being kept in what she calls a glass bubble.
A glass bubble.
You keep her isolated, except for certain social functions, You tell her nothing. You share none of your everyday events with her. She feels like part of the furniture in this house.
I'm sure there are a great many women who would consider the opulent surroundings and benefits of being married to me as highly attractive.
And there are probably just as many who wouldn't trade places with Prudence for anything. There are people who value freedom to develop as individuals, practice their talents, air their opinions, and direct their own lives at least to a reasonable extent. When someone's caged, victimized psychologically, and then suffer the effects of trauma, it can hardly be called immature. People are different. Each of us has certain strengths and weaknesses. Different circumstances affect individuals in widely separate ways sometimes.
My sister, the psychoanalyst.
Oh, save the snide remark.
All right. So what do you want me to do?
Well, I understand that Prudence was keen on starting a career in interior decorating. Now, something like that could be marvelous therapy if she can handle it.
I will not have my wife traipsing about houses, gluing wallpaper and sticking
talking to you is like banging one's head against a stone
don't
pole.
be ridiculous. I'm not unreasonable, but the wife of a man in my position simply does not...
Get your mind off yourself for a moment and try to appreciate Prudence's ambitions. Give her a chance to prove herself to herself.
You've certainly taken up arms on her behalf.
Look, I'm concerned about her. More so than you are, by the looks of it.
For heaven's sake, tell Prudence she can start a career in interior decorating if that's what she wants. Now, may we close this discussion?
Well, I've said what I wanted to say.
Good.
Now, to change the subject, has Frank Goodley come up with any further news about Felicity Ferrier?
She was at the funeral this afternoon.
Really? Wonder why?
Who knows?
Have there been any reports from Simpson at the London office? He was busy digging into her background.
Yes. Simpson filed a report. I've got a copy you can read.
Oh, don't sound so condescending with me, John. I've got a right to know all there is to know about Miss Ferrier, as long as company funds and manpower are being used to investigate
I'm
her.
not being condescending. It's just that Felicity Ferrier could turn out to be really bad news. Leave it to me.
I'm prepared to do that up to a point. But Frank Goodley is not to take any action unless I approve it.
Oh, you sound as paranoid as my wife. What do you think I'm going to do? Are you worried Frank will fit our Miss Ferrier with cement shoes and drop her in a lake?
What's the matter with you, John?
What's the matter with me? There's nothing the matter with me. I'm trying to follow in the footsteps of Uncle Peter. He was a highly competent man. There's a jungle out there, Candace, dear. A jungle.
I know.
Big business is like running with a pack of wolves. Or alternatively, to use another cliche, if you can't stand the heat, then get out of the kitchen.
I can stand the heat. Don't you worry about that. But we aren't talking about business in the accepted sense of the word. Felicity Ferrier could have blackmail on her mind. A piece of blackmail so strong that the very thought of it put Uncle Peter in his grave.
That's right. Miss Ferrier is a very special problem. It may require some very special action to take care of her.
It could be that you and I have different views on what his special action should be, so you keep me informed.
I will. But I don't have to keep you informed about what goes on in my marriage to Prudence. So I'd appreciate it if in future you don't stick your nose in that department.
Prudence is your wife. But starting right now, I'd like you to understand that she's also my friend. And I'm family. It's my intention to help her get back on an even keel, whether you like it or not. Good night, John. I'm going up to my room now.
Yes, good night, Candace. Look, this has been a rather awkward chat we've been having. There's really no need for us to be, tense about things.
Good.
We mustn't get on each other's nerves.
I assure you I have no intention of allowing anything to get on my nerves.
That's fine, then.
But just remember one thing. I'm not like Prudence. I'm not what you call highly strung. I've got nerves like a ship's cable.
Yes, I know.
I'm very concerned about Prudence. I don't like what's happening to her.
Of course you don't, and neither do I.
I'm glad we agree.
Yes, of course.
Well, good night, John.
Good night. Oh, that's it. At least we all know where we stand.
Oh, good morning, Candice.
Oh, hello, Mrs. Layton. How's Prudence today?
Oh, she's still sleeping. The sedative Dr. Wilson gave her will probably keep her knocked out until about midday.
Ah.
Oh, would you like some coffee before breakfast? I've just poured myself a cup.
Yes, thank you.
I heard you talking to John when he came in last night.
You could say we had a little heart-to-heart talk.
About Prudence?
Yes.
This isn't the first time Prudence has had to have Dr. Wilson around here to calm her down.
So I've gathered.
As you may know, I came to live here with my daughter about 6 months ago, after she had a particularly bad attack. I was going to stay only a few days, but, well, as you see, I'm still here.
Did Prudence ask you to stay?
Yes.
Do you mind?
Oh, no, not at all. After all, I'm a widow, and I was leading a rather lonely life on my own, and this is such a lovely house with a beautiful garden and so on. I'm not here to nurse my daughter. Oh, she gets over her attacks of nervous tension in a couple of days and is right as rain. Till the next time.
You know, I'm not very impressed by the treatment Dr. Wilson is supplying. I mean, it appears that whenever Prudence is, well, shall we call, uptight, he just gives her a sedative injection. Why hasn't he recommended some psychological therapy?
Oh, don't blame Dr. Wilson. He fully understands that Prudence has a psychological problem, but John won't allow his wife near anyone like a psychiatrist. He seems to think that visiting a psychiatrist is an admission of insanity.
If Prudence would benefit from psychiatric help, then John has no right to stand in her way. Now, why don't you just bundle her off to a suitable specialist? I'm sure Dr. Wilson could give you a name.
Nobody in this house does anything which isn't personally approved by John in some or other way. He's very possessive with Prudence, and she isn't even supposed to leave the house without being accompanied by a security man. Although she's managed to get around that restriction recently.
Well, I can see John's point of view regarding a bodyguard for Prudence when she goes out. I mean, after all, she's a person kidnappers may try to get hold of. It's become a popular sport all over the world.
Yes, I know. But in my daughter's case, the presence of a bodyguard adds to her already overdeveloped sense of being a virtual prisoner. At present, Prudence is just neurotic. But I worry sometimes that the pressure may rarely drive her crazy one day. There's the doorbell. It's probably Mrs. Kleinhoff. We've arranged to go into town together this morning.
You're still busy with your breakfast. Shall I let her in?
No, it's all right. The maid will answer the door.
I've got a few more minutes to kill before I leave for the city. I've got an appointment with Harry Stopley at 9. Oh, do you mind if I have a cigarette?
No, go ahead.
Thanks.
Do you mean Harry Stopley of Denbrook Textiles?
Yes, do you know him?
Oh, met him once. Very nice man. A widower, I believe.
I wouldn't know. Haven't met him before.
Good morning, lady.
Oh, good morning.
Kleinhoff, come in. Sit down for a moment. I'm afraid I'm still busy with breakfast.
Oh, that's all right. I know I'm a bit early.
Would you like some coffee?
Well, I prefer tea, but not inconvenient.
No, not at all. I'll ring for the maid.
How are you, Miss Drew?
I'm very well, thank you. And yourself?
Very well.
You rang, maybe?
Oh, yes, Alice. Would you bring tea for Mrs. Kleinhoff, please?
Very well, madam.
Where's Prudence? Is she sleeping late?
No, she isn't well.
Oh, not another one of her attacks, I hope.
Yes, I'm afraid so.
Oh,
Dr. Wilson was here last night and he gave her a shot.
What happened to upset her in the first place?
I'm not sure. Haven't spoken to her about it yet, but Candy's had a word with John last night.
Well, your brother is not a very sympathetic man.
I suppose that's one way of putting it.
Well, has Prudence told you how she feels that she's locked in a glass bubble?
She used that expression when we talked last night.
Ah.
She needs to feel there's more to her life than parading its social functions. She needs to develop more constructive interest, and she wants to.
Well, I believe she's very interested in interior decorating.
Yes, she is.
Yes.
I gather she has a natural flair for that sort of work.
Oh, yes, she knows the ropes. The interior decorating in this house is her work. very tasteful and well-balanced, don't you think?
Oh, yes, very. In fact, it's outstanding.
And, of course, she would like to have a baby. Such a pity she and John haven't managed to start a family. I'm sure that would make all the difference.
Perhaps. But I think there's more to it than that.
Well, physically, there's no reason why John and Prudence can't be parents. I mean, the specialists have found that they're both perfectly normal in that respect.
Well, you know, a high degree of nervous tension has been known to cause infertility.
When I spoke to my brother last night, he said he wouldn't object if Prudence did start working as an interior decorator. Personally, I think it would do wonders for her self-confidence.
Yes. Good heavens, Candice. You mean to say you got John to agree to allow Prudence to work?
Yes.
Oh, congratulations. You've succeeded where the rest of us have failed miserably.
The opportunity to work is a very real human need. A job gives a person a sense of purpose. And when I say job, it includes every useful endeavour from Prime Minister to housewife.
Poor Prudence has been denied even the title of housewife. She's surrounded by servants.
And because she's a basically imaginative and energetic person, this enforced idleness is frustrating her out of her mind.
John thinks it would be undignified for Prudence to have a job.
Oh, how can work be undignified? Every job has its dignity. Because it's work, whether it be some highly sophisticated career such as a scientist or engineer, or simply that of a rubbish removal or unlocking drains.
I think I know what you mean. To be unemployed against your will is to feel unwanted.
Correct. And when someone is made to feel unwanted, they've lost one of the foundations of the will to live. Whatever job Prudence or anyone else chooses to do, there's no question of indignity. Honest work simply cannot be undignified.
Really, Candace, my dear, I think you should go into politics.
Oh, I'm sorry if I was sounding off there. I suppose it's just that I judge people on their personal worth as individuals, not on the circumstances Providence has seen fit to place them in.
Please excuse me if I'm being impertinent, but I must say you are totally unlike your brother.
Oh.
You two are so unlike, it's sometimes hard to believe you're brother and sister.
You're right, Mrs. Kleinhoff. But I can tell you that John is just like his late Uncle Peter. There was a real old tiger, and that's a fact.
Your tea, madam?
Oh, thank you so much.
Will that be all, madam?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, well, I'd better be on my way. I mustn't keep Mr. Stopley waiting.
Candice is going to see Harry Stopley at Denbrook Textiles.
I think I remember Mr. Stopley. He was at a cocktail party here last month. He's a widower, isn't he?
That's right.
Do I notice a glint in your eye, Mrs. Layton?
Don't be silly.
Aha. I think I should warn Mr. Stopley that somebody's got his eye on him.
Don't you dare.
Oh, well, I'll be going now.
Good morning, all.
Oh, Prudence, dear, you're up and dressed.
Yes, I'm up and about and ready to face the world. I had to hold my head under a cold shower to clear the cobwebs of that sedative Dr. Wilson gave me last night.
You look pale to me. Are you sure
Oh,
that
don't
you...
fuss, Mother. I'm fine. Where are you off to, Candace?
I have an appointment at 9. I must be going.
Have a nice day.
Yes, you too. Bye, everyone.
Well,
Bye-bye, dear.
what's for breakfast?
Well, what would you like?
Oh, a soft-boiled egg, I think.
Mrs. Kleinhoff and I are going into town this morning. We're going to do some shopping. Would you like to come along?
No, I don't think so. Thanks all the same. You rang, madam?
Oh, yes. Mrs. Drew will have a soft-boiled egg.
And toast? Yes, madam.
Thank you, Alice.
Well, don't let me delay you. Off you go to town.
Have you finished your tea, Mrs. Kleinhoff?
Yes, thank you. Shall we be on our way?
Yes, I think so. Prudence, dear, we'll be back in a couple of hours.
Fine.
Is there anything we can get for you while we're out?
No, thanks.
I'll ask for the car to be brought to the front of the house.
Oh, by the way, maybe there is something you can get for me.
Yes, certainly. What is it?
Some street maps of the city and suburbs.
Oh, what for?
I'll tell you later. You rang, madam?
What? Oh, yes, so I did. Please ask the chauffeur to bring the car to the front.
Yes,
No, we'll be going then. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye, dear. Don't overdo things now.
Cheerio. You rang, madam? Oh, yes. Yes, bring the extension telephone in here, please. Yes, madam. Here is the telephone. Thank you. Just put it on the table, please. Yes, madam. Will that be all, madam? Thank you. Oh, and don't forget my soft-boiled egg. No, madam. Hello? May I speak to Mr. Chevreau, please? It's Mrs. Drew calling. Hello, Clive. It's Prudence Drew here. Do you still remember me?
Prudence looked surprisingly bright and cheerful this morning under the circumstances.
Yes, she did.
Perhaps she was just putting on an act of cheerfulness.
No, I don't think so.
Very perceptive about things like this.
Oh,
Why should she have been so full of beans? I mean, last night Dr. Wilson gave her a sedative injection because she was overwrought. Surely she should have been going around in a daze this morning.
Not necessarily. It would depend on the type of drug. Might have worn off by now.
But my daughter was a nervous wreck last night. The transformation is amazing.
Yes, but her complaint is in her mind. Not that makes her suffering any less real, but just as thought can drag a person down, so other thoughts can buoy a person up.
Well, I don't like to see her going up and down emotionally like a yo-yo.
No, neither do I, my dear. You know, I don't want to be alarmist, but I think that we should watch her carefully. Perhaps her frame of mind might do something unwise.
Listen again tomorrow to another episode of The Inheritors,